Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are live. My name is Ariel Serber. I'm with Ioanna Onasi, and we're going to get right into it because we have a lot to cover. Her story is really incredible, and I want to learn as much as possible in the time that we have. So, Ioanna, do you want to give a little bit of your background and who you are, where you are, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, for anyone who can't tell by my name, I'm originally from Greece. I've been in the States for the last decade. Really came for school, but ended up staying. Studied psychology and communications for my bachelor's, then went into talent development and strategic management for my master's, where I actually came in New York City. I was studying at Pace and really loved talent development. I kind of got into it through a professor that I admired a lot, and I helped him with his academic research and his books. And it kind of opened my eyes to this complex world of hiring, developing talent, how we motivate talent, what are the skills that we need to look for, and combining all of my interests between business and psychology. So I said, let me get into HR and started an internship while still doing my master's at an AI sales startup that did lead generation. And then I got into this AI world because prior to that, my background was in fashion, more creative things, very different than the tech world. And
Sure.
starting working there, I fall in love with startups like many people do. I think the fast pace, the problem solving, and the fact that what I was working on had impact that I could see immediately really inspired me to start my own thing. However, I
Mm.
didn't know on what yet. Right? So I always knew I was gonna end up in entrepreneurship, just wasn't sure on what. And then I identified a big problem around coaching. So I know we'll dive into it later, but long story short, around that age, at 24, I started Dexago, an AI coaching platform for sales and leadership development, helping people
Mm.
become more influential in their communications and leading to higher revenue. So that period was where I was deciding between starting this or doing my PhD. So of course the startup won, but I'm still very much into the
Mm.
academic side, doing research and geeking out on
Yeah,
these topics.
yeah. But I'm sure that what you've learned, uh, before, during, and into now, what from your work and building and everything that goes into it is, I mean, that's there's PhD and then there's like the real learning and just when academics hits the actual streets, eye to eye, belly to belly, as you're in sales development, that's kind of where the rubber hits the road and all these different phrases. But you started your entrepreneurial journey when you were a teenager. Was
Yes.
that in fashion? And can you talk about that? Like what you kind of took from that, plus then your later academic side to
Yeah.
spur this on.
Yeah, first of all, you're totally right. There's no better lesson learned than the actual doing of the thing. And you
Hmm.
can study it as much as you want, but unless you're out there pitching it and working with people who don't know what you don't know. So back at 15, I had started a fashion brand in Greece with handmade clothes and accessories. And it had started very much casually, like me creating my own jewelry for myself because I love to like wear different things that others didn't have. It was not mainstream. Then, my friends started wanting to buy and was selling like a bracelet here and there. And I was calling it Joe Jewels Inc. as the first like name of the company, and then it became more official. The mission there was to basically hire Greek women that knew how to knit from their grandmothers to pass the heritage and give them a job opportunity during the deep economic crisis in Greece, but also making it sustainable. Like there's a huge crisis when it comes to fashion, being the number two pollutant. So all this together, start that company without knowing anything about running a company, just having that passion for the mission, and really struggled and realized that there's two things that are must for any business, and that are distribution and good branding. And you can do that without some sort of backing, like whether that's financial or other people like supporting, like influencers, etc. So it was pretty tough. But yeah, I took that lesson learned for sure, combine it with the academic knowledge to build
Yeah.
Dextago.
Yeah, and it sounds like you identified a real problem, which you also did with Dextago. So can you walk through the process of how how you discovered this as a problem and why why is this the problem to solve?
When it comes to Dextago, now you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, while in my role at the startup I mentioned, I was their VP of People and Chief of Staff. So I did a lot of enablement. And I saw again and again that the reps learned the product inside out, yet still couldn't close because they didn't have the language to speak to C suite. They didn't have the ability to create urgency in the deal. They didn't have the ability to do change management. And right now we see that the buying committees are getting larger and larger. So even if you're able to influence positively the champion, you still have to do so much more work to get the deal done. And so all these human skills that I call as part of sales skills are very hard to teach. They take
Hmm.
time, and you can't just watch an online course. You have to do it, as we said earlier. But when we're talking about digital workforces, selling through Zoom, remote workers, this is exponentially harder to teach because prior to that, you would have people in the office, you would see how others do it, you would mimic them. You learn faster by seeing others in action. So
Hmm.
what we had at that point as the only way to teach them was learning management systems. And I would assign these courses knowing that they don't learn anything because it just wouldn't stick, and there was no incentive because as an employee, okay, you have to take a course to submit it, and so like, yeah, you passed it, but it won't necessarily help you sell better and hit your quota. So think about all
Hmm.
these problems, and especially nowadays when AI is doing all the technical stuff, and the prospect is coming into a call already knowing everything they want to know about the product. They are coming in to see, is this someone I trust? Is this someone I can actually give money and know that they will deliver whatever ROI they're promising? Is this someone
Hmm.
that I know I can call at any time and get the support I need? So this relationship building becomes so crucial today. The problem is, to develop influence and trust, you need to spend at least 2 to 7 hours with someone. And that cannot happen when the sales process is so broken and you have 30 minutes discovery call, trying to do a demo, trying to find their need, trying to persuade them to move forward. So, how do we accelerate that? Is by trying to give you as much insights as possible on who you're meeting, to tailor your communication approach based on that. For instance, are they analytical? Are they big picture thinkers? How can you speak in a way that resonates with them to increase your chances of building that trust while still being authentic? You're not manipulating them, you're just adjusting the way you would in real life. You speak differently to
Yeah.
your mom than to your kid, than to your wife, I'm sure. Like, everyone needs to be spoken in a way that resonates with them if we want them to
Right.
do something on our behalf. So AI becomes a huge helper here because it can find all this public data about us, because we all have huge digital footprint out there, and analyze these in respect to psychographics like DISC and Ocean that have existed for a long time in psychology and in sales, and tell us how to best approach that specific sale. Now, of course, it takes practice, it takes reps. So, what Dextago does is also role plays with AI buyers that represent your actual buyers before the call, but then
Yeah.
joins live to see how the call is going and give you suggested responses on how to handle objections, how to do deeper discovery, and align the two with a agenda and next steps, so that there is no rushing after, oh, I want to follow up because we didn't secure the next meeting, and then you get ghosted. It just
Right.
guides that conversation, but allows you to become a better seller without having the manager on the call saving the situation, or without you having to say, oh, I'll get back to you because I don't remember how we compared to XYZ competitor, because now
Right.
it's trained on your knowledge base and your go to market, and it knows everything about your business.
That's great. I mean, a lot of the sort of training that I got and others also, it can only happen in the field. You try things, you either win or you learn is the
Hmm.
expression.
Yes.
So it's like if you didn't raise a question or talk about, like you said, the next step, we're going to meet. We met on today's Tuesday, so how is next Tuesday or Thursday to, and because if you don't have something in the calendar, it can totally get lost in everyone's busy days. So the only way to improve is the experience. But how do you get this data on people
Yeah.
to give to the sales teams or?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll answer it. I just want to also add that what we just described was the problem we're solving for the sellers themselves. There's another
Mhm.
huge problem on the sales enablement and leadership front, which is how do I connect training to ROI, right? Because historically, all
Mhm.
this training has been a cost center. And now, with the ability to track how many of the AI interventions you follow, we can connect that to win rate increase and prove black and white ROI, which is a huge, huge thing for enablement.
Yeah.
Now, how we find that data? As I said, there is so much digital footprint we all have. That can be LinkedIn posts, it can be blog posts, interviews, podcasts. There's so much out there depending on your role. I think the
Mhm.
only ones that don't have a lot of stuff out there are basically doctors or maybe cybersecurity people. Most of us do
Well,
have
because they
enough
know.
that the AI can pick up in seconds and analyze and figure out what this tells us about who you are as a communicator, how to best approach you. Now,
Yeah.
if you
I
already
mean,
have talked, go ahead.
yeah, no, I mean, just from like a consumer side, that's a little bit creepy and like dystopian maybe, but I mean, I understand why it's happening, and a lot of it is also volunteered by people like me or us and others. So it's sort of it's a new way of thinking about how we are, how comfortable we are with the overall environment and kind of ecosystem we're all in.
Mm,
And actually, that's something I wanted to talk to you about as well, because you've mentioned about different generations in the workforce. So I imagine their comfort level with technology and either using it or feeling like they're being used by it or mined for it. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of generational differences there. So
100%.
can you talk to that and maybe how leadership can address it and think about it?
Yeah, I mean, think about it as a manual thing you would anyways do, right? You would go on someone's LinkedIn and try to figure out who they are before a call. Now it's just AI
Hmm.
accelerates that. Now, the question I think that a lot of Gen Z are asking is, how do I know that this data is valid when someone might be representing themselves in a different way than they truly are? And it's a very fair question. Now, we're not saying that the AI will tell you if this is reality or not. We're telling you that this is what we found. But on top of it, the way we're solving for that is by taking into account the internal data more. So once you've met someone and you have their actual expressions, the actual call data, we can say, okay, this is who they are more than their posts on LinkedIn, for example. So there is some
Okay.
ways to validate that. So there is definitely differentiations from generation to generation. I think people that have been in the workforce longer, first of all, value the relationship building more. So they understand it takes time to build the trust. And the more data I can have on someone to personalize my approach, the better. Gen Z understands again the idea of using AI, right? They're born in this world, but they have to really work on their human skills, this communication, negotiation. So they use the platform more for the practice, the guidance. So different personas will use it for different things. As a sales leader, what is revolutionary here is that you don't have to just trust what your seller is saying. Like, yeah, this deal will close. Yeah, this person liked it. and you hope that it will actually come through this quarter, you actually have hard data on what's going on. Plus, you know how coachable your team is. Because with this guidance we give, we can tell you if you're improving week by week, day by day. So you don't have to waste a year with someone that doesn't show any signs of coachability. So for them, that's
Right.
a big thing, because they know that younger generations require lots of training and they just don't have the bandwidth for it.
Yeah. Well, are there ways to screen for that coachability earlier, like in the recruiting process?
100%, yes. In fact, from my awareness at least, we're the only company that have a score for coachability and influence that you can figure out very early on. I mean, it takes a few practices to see if someone takes into account the feedback and implements it and improves their score. So to me, I don't understand why any recruiter hasn't already implemented that, because without a sign of coachability, it doesn't matter if the person is great now. They won't show an improvement for the next thing, which might be a leadership role you want them to take. Like, I'm
Right.
not hiring you today based on who you are today. I'm hiring you for your trajectory and your potential to grow within the company. And that's a big
Right.
misconception that people don't realize because they just see a nice resume.
Yeah. Well, I think that's on both sides though, right? Like it could be on the hiring manager or whoever and the recruit, because they just see, what's in front of them
Mm-hmm.
as this is the role, but maybe they don't think about so the future within the company, within an organization, within a career broadly. So how can that mindset change, going forward?
And I think we're talking also about drive, right? Like the average person that is self-driven and wants their career to grow, they will see past today's role and they'll ask, what are the training opportunities? How do I get to
Hmm.
leadership, etc. Now, if the drive is not there, and you're asking me how you change the mindset, I think there can be a lot of reasons why it's not there, like upbringing, etc. But one might just be that they don't know what are the opportunities for growth. So to me, the question becomes, who's responsible for it? Is it schools that have to show these career paths? Is it that recruiter, that first manager you have? Someone needs to sit with you early on in your career and explain, today you're here. These are the options of how to get there. Do you want this? Yes or no? If yes, let's make a plan forward. And
Right.
what drives you? Is it money? Is it the title? Like, help me help you here. I think these are difficult
Right.
conversations that are so necessary that people don't have in the workplace. They're like, okay, I have a
Right.
need. I need to hire someone. Boom, that's it. And the next thing you know, they leave for a better opportunity and you have to do it all over again. And they're
Sure.
just
And that's
lost.
costly.
Exactly.
Very costly.
So
So
I think, just to conclude, where AI here
yeah.
plays a big role is AI acting as a career coach and a leadership coach, helping you either as a manager or as an employee fill in these gaps, because it knows your interests and your skill sets and can also suggest things. But the ability to take charge of your own career development is amazing. Like, it doesn't matter where you're from and your background and whether you're introvert, extrovert, etc. Now you all have the ability to figure out what's out there for you. Now, if you do it or
Yeah,
not, it's something else.
for sure. Well, that's always the case. I mean, it's a tool. So, but it's a tool also that people are very nervous and sort of anxious about. I'm sure you saw there were videos of people booing when at college graduations. But I think your framing kind of changes it from a risk to the career to a tool to use in your career. Is that
Exactly.
accurate?
Yeah, 100%.
Good. So, but I want to talk about the book. So, CEO Energy. How, and why? You were actually writing a different book, I think, when we spoke a little while ago. Has that changed into this, or is this a totally different project?
I honestly don't remember what I was
Okay,
writing.
because I have in notes from like the last time we did one of these. you were writing about, I think, either 12 or some of the women founders or something like that. What?
Oh, okay. So I am part of a book for female
Ah,
founders, but I was not the one writing that. However,
okay.
this book also started a bit differently and ended up to what it is today. So the story
So
here,
let's get the story. Yeah.
was that I teach to a few universities, and I was always getting questions around what does it take to start your own company. Who are good CEOs? Are leaders born, developed? All these type of questions. And initially, I had an idea of interviewing only like billion-dollar company CEOs and say, okay, what makes you who you are? And then I was thinking to myself, and I said, no one will relate to that. Like, I really want to inspire the next gen of CEOs, those founders who are thinking of starting but might have those self doubts. So I want
Hmm.
to interview more everyday people, like we actually can find in events we go to, things like that. So I came up with a list of founders who are very diverse, different age groups, industries, etc., company sizes and stages, and ask them about their stories. So it's like a series of interviews plus my story, and ends up with a framework to come up with basically what is CEO energy, who becomes a good CEO, what does it take, and if you have those doubts, how can you set them down so you do start. And really, the
Got it.
whole point of it is that it's a choice, it's a series of hard choices you have to make. There is, of course, a skill set, for instance, hiring and motivating others that we kind of talked about. It's about seeing the opportunities and chasing them. And it's about increasing your luck. Like, it takes a lot of luck to be at the right place at the right time. But you increase that if you actually are out there building community, going to events, doing things, pitching, not staying at your home watching Netflix.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I like to call that curated serendipity.
I
So can
love
you
that.
talk about, yeah, so can you talk about more about the making your own luck? Like, where has that happened in your own situation, your own life?
Yes, in so many ways. I mean, Dextigo is a company because I was never afraid of going out there and talking about it and talking about my vision, and being open to feedback and pitching it to investors, pitching it to advisors, cold emailing, cold LinkedIn messaging people, going to pitch competitions. Like, it's a series of all these things that continuously put me out of my comfort zone and made me
Mm,
vulnerable to criticism. But the thing I had to keep telling myself is that criticism, like, or is any negative feedback really going to stop me? Is this going to help me develop? Is this making me reach where, like, my future self is in my head? If so, okay, I'll stop and ponder. If not, you have to totally ignore it and keep going. But yeah, nothing would have happened if, I stayed in Greece, for instance. I
right,
chose to live in a different country and pursuing a dream and solving problems and challenging myself every day. That is making my own luck. No one will come save me and give me, $1 billion to pursue a dream. So realizing that and accepting also reality and the numbers, right? Like, you can't be so delusional to think the chances are actually in your favor. In startups, they're not. But you have to do your best to increase your chances and work hard.
sure.
And the best way to learn and avoid mistakes that are very commonly made are through other founders. And that's actually part of my motivation to write the book. Learn from others' mistakes that are 20, 30, 40 years older than me, have been there, done that, and accelerate my journey through that.
Okay, that's amazing. So you mentioned a lot of things there, but I want to go back to you said there's a sort of framework. So can you
Hmm.
talk about the framework and structure, and obviously not everything flows perfectly, but again, you want to give yourself the best chance of having a good outcome, whatever that might be.
Yeah. Yeah. The framework starts with self awareness. I do believe self awareness is number one. In fact, I remember myself in a psychology class, they were talking about the Zahari window, how for us to build that self-awareness, we need to understand there's things that others know about us that we don't know about us, that we know some things about us that others don't, some things we both know and some neither. Point being that we do need others to build our self-awareness, and we need that self-awareness to build companies, to build our self-actualization. So self-awareness is key, because if you don't know what you're not good at, you're not going to hire the right people. Self-awareness is good because if you don't know what you stand for, you won't have a good mission and culture. Like, everything is connected, everything starts from that if you want to have a sustainable business. Now, if you're approaching businesses from the perspective of just problem solving and engineering, that's another thing. But what I see today, and I saw it from my own journey, like starting and believing that these soft skills are so important, and getting pushback from others that no, you're working in AI, you're working in tech, you need technical skills, was that I always stayed true to what I believed. And in fact, it played out that now with AI, like, so much of the technical things are automated and taken care of, that the people who succeed are the ones that will have that influence and can explain their mission and can get people to act on their behalf. So the framework starts with self-awareness because of this reason, and concludes with different things like conviction and culture, and these things that are required if you want to be a CEO. Because you can have self-awareness and be the best employee ever, but there's a few other things you need as a CEO, and that is the goal of that framework, to make it very easy for people to understand what's required of them outside of their domain knowledge and the product market fit, if
Right.
they want to have impact and scale.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on, well, you showed the drive that you mentioned before about whether someone is coachable or has the drive. And I think, especially for immigrant founders and others in similar situations, or maybe sometimes overlooked members of the population, it takes that much more effort. But I think that becomes sort of more rewarding as the journey progresses and proceeds, because it's not necessarily all about the end point. It's sometimes about, like the Odyssey just came out, right?
Yeah.
It's about the Odyssey, right?
So true. It's the underdog mentality, right? Like, if you can find these people that have something to prove, that will go the extra mile, I think they tend to be also very loyal to the mission, but to people who give them the opportunity, because they know they don't come easily.
All right. So what else? So who's sort of the target market for the book? Like who should pick this up? People that are thinking about starting their own companies, or people that are already founders and are kind of in that sort of middle ground?
Yeah, I think both people who are thinking about starting and the ones that just started and still have those doubts and that imposter syndrome of, hey, is this for me? Should I keep going? And it shows through the stories of people who really made it. Like, I have some CEOs there that have sold their companies, some that are like $1 billion worth, some smaller ones, but they all share those moments that they had doubts and how they end up keep going. And really, it's extremely hard to think that you will overcome these moments alone. You do need trusted people, you do need a support network. And I hope that this book is kind of part of it, even if you don't have these people around you, that you feel, okay, others have gone through this, I can too. Because it's so hard, and sometimes you feel like the whole world is against you when you have a vision that people don't see yet. Maybe you're ahead of the market or whatever the case might be. But if you understand those core principles and you believe in yourself and you find one or two other people who do the same, then you'll be fine. So this is for the people who have doubts.
Sure. Well, look, everyone has doubts. You can't. I think if you don't have doubts, that's almost like I don't want to say psychopath, but that's like a whole other
Yeah.
level. Um, so who was there for you? Did you lean on community? You mentioned community before. Like how important is that? What are some communities you're a part of here in New York or broader uh, kind of world?
Yeah, number one is my family, 110%. They're always there to support when I have those moments of crisis. I think they very much believe in me and they believe in the mission, and they always remind me that I'm built for it. Because the thing with founders is if you can replace that founder and someone else can run the company, I can say maybe you are not meant for this. You're just good at this. But if you can remove yourself and you see that no one can execute the same exact vision, then you are meant for this. And that's what I'm reminded of because coaching is what I've been doing my entire life. Like, even on a friend level, like all my friends come to me for coaching. So it's my
Mm,
personality, it's what I love doing. I want to see people improve, and through tech we can do that at scale. But my family is number one. My early investors, angel investors, who when I had nothing believed in the product and my execution
mm,
skills, these are the ones that honestly I'm so grateful for. And like they'll tell me, I respect your grind and how you never stop, when honestly they shouldn't even say that, meaning that they can just put pressure and say, where's my money, or when will I see my RI, right? Like that's basically what an investor is out there for. But the fact that they can
sure.
separate that and can talk to me more as a human and as someone who believes in me, that's incredible. Now, in terms of communities, I've been part of a lot in New York over the years. Right now, I'm part of Fund Her Network, which is for female founders and investors, trying to decrease that 2% gap where only 2% of VC funding goes to female founders. Part of Wednesday Women, a community also of C suite women. And then a bunch of others like ad hoc that I go for events, um, including yours. And I think that the best for me has been smaller communities, like smaller
Mm,
gatherings where you can actually meet people, and
yeah,
build strong relationships.
yeah, no, that's key. And I want to touch on the investor side because it seems like investors are basically placing a bet on, they're not really placing a bet on the company or the product and service at that early stage. They're really placing a bet on the leader, which was
Mm.
you in your case. So could could that be also you mentioned the framework. Investors are looking for who to invest in, and obviously both sides want the right fit, right? You say product market fit, but there's also investor founder fit. So it
Hmm.
sounds like you have that. And obviously, there's a million stories of where that goes completely wrong and upside down. Even co-founder fit, especially co-founder fit, because it's a relationship like any other, and things can kind of turn upside down. So, what are the frameworks you see for choosing an investor from your
Mm.
side, or if you're an investor and looking through maybe the prism of your framework at CEOs, is there sort of a like a I don't want to say a checklist because that's too old school, but just as a starting point, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. First, I'll speak as a founder looking at investors. Every single investor will promise that they do more than just give you a check. They'll open up doors, they'll do introductions, etc. My advice and what I look for is getting that feedback not from them, but from their other portfolio founders. Can someone else that they've invested in tell me that they did indeed open doors, that they did make
Hmm.
connections, they check in regularly? That is number one. Of course, a lot of it has to do with brand equity. Like, let's say for accelerators too, it's a different thing when a founder has been invested by YC versus, I don't know, a local accelerator. Whether we like it or not, it gives much more gravitas to say YC. So
Hmm.
it depends on the stage you're in and how much equity you want to give, of course. But I think these two, PR and then the actual help, are the two lenses I would see it from. And also, just if you like the person, when you jump on this call, does your gut like tell you, oh my God, you need to go, or you actually look forward to talking to them because you respect them as a person? Because that's not just one transaction, they're going to be in your cap table for the long term. And the other thing I would say is, do they understand things take time? Are they like very much short-term investors? They want a quick turnaround, or they can stay for the long term and they will support. And on the other end, when we're talking about what an investor looks for in a founder, I think, and I mentioned this word so many times today, but it really is influence, because it touches everything. Like, is this person influential enough to get people to work for them, to get clients to buy, to get other investors? Is this someone that has self-discipline? And it's very hard as a first-time founder, because you haven't been in that position before. So you might think you're resilient, yet you actually might not be. So they're looking for certain hints. I know a lot of times people prefer like founders who've been athletes, because that tells them something.
Right.
Or let's say you've been a
Well,
leader.
that's the coachability thing.
Yeah, exactly. You've been a leader somehow at your college, or any sign that can show that this person can handle the stress and the pressure. And then, of course, domain expertise. I can't be telling you invest in me because I'll build something for, I don't know, the medical field, and I have never studied medicine. Like, I haven't worked in this field. So these are a few things I believe are very important.
That makes a lot of sense. You've mentioned in your posts and elsewhere about the influence gap. And since you just mentioned the ability to influence, which is really, it needs to be embedded in any leader, I would say, for sure. What is the gap, and how to bridge that gap?
Yeah, influence is something I've been thinking of a lot. And really, the gap has to do between knowing something and doing something. And I can tell you, we talked about it in context of sales, everything about our product, for example, and you might agree it's the best thing, and still I might have missed that influence opportunity to get you to sell on my behalf internally, for example. And why is that? Because again, influence requires trust, requires empathy. If you feel like I don't know what you're going through, I don't understand your pain point, or you feel like I have a different goal, which is to make money rather than help you, you're gonna have your guard up. And that's the same, like we were talking about recruiting. If you want to get successful in your career versus I'm thinking, is this person going to make me money today? Our goals are not aligned. So it's very hard to influence you. And so the influence gap is something that I see a lot, both when it comes to managers, but also fellow employees. Like, we're working together, I'm trying to get this project done, I have to influence my co-employee to do something, right? So it's everywhere. That's just everything we do. The gap today exists because we have a workplace crisis, both with AI and with Gen Z, all these generations. It becomes very hard because we all speak different languages. It's like we share the same Slack channels, but we all have a different idea of what a good employee looks like based on all the things I mentioned, like our backgrounds, our generation, etc., how we're used to doing things. So as a leader, then you question yourself and like, how do I influence all these different people? Because it's all about knowing your audience, right? And when the audience is so mixed, it's hard. There's just noise. How do I come across correctly? And we developed decades ago an influence score because we see the need to measure this in order to be able to develop it. And we're doing academic research on the topic, and we built this influence institute, a cross-disciplinary community for people to come and have this conversation and of course act on it. But my vision is that the influence score will be a standard in the workplace to figure out if a leader should be a leader or not. Because right now we see, managers become managers because they were good at their job. That doesn't mean they're influential. We see people who have leadership positions that end up, manipulating for the wrong reasons, or the dark side of influence. So if we don't know how to measure it, how can we control for all these things?
Yeah, and it also comes back to incentives a lot of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, what, where can people find this book and contact you and reach out and all that? I want you to definitely put links and all that in the comments. So please do.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me with my name. The book is on Kindle, CEO Energy, Overcoming Doubts. And I'm also on Instagram as genz.founder. So lots of
Okay.
places. Reach out. Feel free to share it with other founders in your network and give me your thoughts. I'm very much looking forward to hearing from people reading it.
That's awesome. Anything non-work coming up that you're excited about?
Non-work coming up that I'm excited about. Um, I think I told you my trip to Greece. That's all I can think of. Seeing
Okay.
my family
No,
and friends
that's
after
a
a year.
that's a nice break, a nice cherry at the end of the or carrot at the end of the stick, whatever the phrase is. That's great.
Exactly. And it's a reminder for everyone. We also need some rest. We need
A
balance.
hundred, 100%. Um, and that could be its own topic for another talk for sure.
Yeah.
Um, what, who would you have this conversation with? If you could have this conversation with any one person from now or the past, who would it be?
Mm, that's a great question. Who would I have this conversation with? I think my younger self, that's who needs it.
Hmm.
Anyone, on the younger front that might not have these examples around them. Especially, I think, as a female founder, like growing up, I didn't really see any role models, to be honest. All I had was YouTube. And most YouTube channels I followed were men. And it was very motivational. But then coming to the US and actually seeing more and more female founders and women that would raise kids, yet work, yet do like 10 million things at the same time. I was like, whoa, like this is a reality, like this happens every day. Like, of course I can do it, but in many countries that's not the case. And so I think any girl in that position where she's thinking, can I do this? 100% I would tell her, read the book and you can.
Read the book. Yeah, I was about to say that sounds like the an unintentional pitch for the book, which is great. Do you have any last minute takeaways or thoughts to leave people with?
Yeah, I think we all need to be kinder to ourselves. That's my conclusion going through all these interviews and just talking to so many people on a daily basis with what's going on with AI and the pressure and the pace. People feel so behind. And you mentioned also the fear. That fear is such a big blocker. Like, is the fear of, oh, this is such an challenging task. I can't even get myself to start type of mentality. But there's really no option. Like whoever is not already working with AI is going to find exponentially difficult to catch up as every day goes by. So just acknowledge where you are and accept it and start working hard. Because there is two people in the world, right? Those that have the victim mentality and they will want to do bad to others so they can come up, or those that accept this is super hard, this is unfair, yet I'm gonna do what I can to achieve my goals, um,
Hmm.
and will actually take time to work on their skills and get better day by day. So it's okay, no one is perfect. Don't get overwhelmed, just start small and you'll see that it's the reps. And I say it for sales, like the role plays people do at Dexter. I say it for the gym, and everything in life is about repetitions. And I'm a good example of that because I did a TEDx this year, and when I was at school I couldn't even deliver a speech. Like, obviously
Yeah.
English is not my first language. I tend to speak fast. I had to learn how to really have a structure. All these things happen because of the practice I had.
Yeah, and you're practicing what you preach. So I appreciate that whenever someone does that and like puts themselves out there and really does it and creates this creates both community and content and thought leadership. And I think that really shows the way for a lot of young founders out there, which is great.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate it, Ariel. And thanks for the talk. Really, really enjoyed
For
it.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And hope to see you soon. If not before you go to Greece, then when you're back here in New York.
Yes, yes. Thank
All
you
right,
so
very
much.
good.
Enjoy
Take
your
care. Have
summer.
a great summer. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.